Good morning, ma'am. Myself Spurti, and I'm here to explain about the topic function and its type. So, what is a function? A function is a block of code which only runs when it is called. You can pass data known as parameters into the function. Functions enable modular programming by breaking down a program into smaller units, where each unit is responsible for performing different operations. We can define the code once and use it many times. So there are two type of functions, namely standard library function and user defined function. The next comes function declaration and definition. The function declaration tells us about the function's name, return type, and parameters. So the syntax here is return type, function name, parameters list or arguments, and then comes the body of the function. So here the return type specifies the data type of the value returned by the function. It can be either void or int. If it is void, then the function does not return any value. Parameters are like input to the function. If the function does not take any parameters, then it is specified as void. A function definition provides the actual body of the function. It specifies the code that will be executed when the function is called. The next topic is function call. To use a function, you will have to call that function to perform the defined task. When a program calls a function, the program control is transferred to the called function. To call a function, you simply need to pass the required parameters along with the function name. So the syntax here is function name along with the arguments. Here in the diagram we can see that the main function calls a function named function1. Therefore the main function is known as calling function and function1 is known as called function. When a compiler encounters a function call, instead of executing the next statement under the main function, the control jumps to the statement which are the part of called function. So after the called function finishes executing its task, the control comes back to the calling function. Functions can be invoked in two ways, that is call by value or call by reference. These two ways are generally differentiated by the type of values passed to them as parameters. So call by value, it is the parameter passing method where the values of the actual parameters are copied to the function's formal parameters, and the two type of parameters are stored in different memory location. So any changes made inside functions are not reflected in the actual parameters. So the parameters passed to the functions are called as actual parameters, where the parameters received by the function are called as formal parameters. Here's an example code for call by value. In this example, the swap function takes two arguments x and y. These arguments are passed by the value, which means that the function receives a copy of the value of x and y. The function then swaps the values of the copies, but this does not affect the value of the original variable x and y. Here, the value of a is 10 and b is 20. Even after swapping is done, the value of a remains 10 and b is 20. Call by reference method copies the address of an argument into the formal parameter. In this method, the address is used to access the actual argument used in the function call. It means that the changes made in the parameter alter the passing argument. Here's an example code for call by reference. In this example, the swap function takes two pointers as arguments. These pointers point a variable a and b in the main function. Inside the swap function, the values of variables are swapped using the variable temp. When the swap function is called from the main function, the address of the variable a and b are passed to the function. This means that the swap function can access and modify the value of variables a and b in the main function. When the swap function returns, the value of the variables a and b in the main function have been swapped. Here in the output, we can see that before swapping, the value of a is 10 and b is 20, and after swapping, the value of a is changed to 20 and b is changed to 10. The next topic is standard library function, which are also called as built-in function. Standard library functions in C is a predefined function provided by the C standard library, which is accessible to C programs without the need for explicit declaration or definition. Standard library functions are used to perform common tasks such as input-output operation, memory management, string manipulation, mathematical calculation, and many more. Here is some of the commonly used standard library function. The first one is input output functions, printf and scanf for formatted output and input respectively, fprintf and scanf, get character and put character for reading and writing single characters, fgets and fputs for reading and writing strings. The next one is memory management function, that is malloc, calloc, reloc, that's for dynamic memory allocation, and free function, that is for deallocating memory, which is allocated using malloc and calloc. Then next comes the string manipulation function, that is strlen to find the length of the string, strcpy to copy the string, strcat for concatenation of the string, strcmp for string comparison. Some of the mathematical functions are labs, square root function, power function, exponential, logarithmic, sine, cos, tan are trigonometric functions. File handling functions are like fopen and fclose to open and close the files, fread and fwrite to read and write the files respectively, fseek and ftell to set and get the file position respectively.
Myself Yoshita. Now I'll discuss about what are exactly user-defined functions. Basically, functions in C are essential for structuring the code, and when we talk about user-defined functions, these functions allows the programmers to create their own functions according to their requirements. With proper understanding and practice, programmers can write the function in a very efficient way and also maintain the code. In this user-defined functions, all the set of instructions that has to be done in one particular code are given under one single name. Now, next comes the key components. That is of 4 types. Those are 4. First one is function name, return type, parameters, and function body. Function name. This is the name that is assigned to the function or the user-defined function created by the user. Next is the return type. This is the data type of the value that function returns. Like example, integer, void, etc. Next comes the parameters. These are the input passed to the function. Next is the function body, where set of instructions that should be executed when the function is called is to be written in the function body. Next, we'll see what are the benefits that we get by using user-defined functions. Actually, they allow programmers to organize the code into logical blocks by improving readability and maintainability. These also enhance code modularity and reusability. So now we'll see the syntax of user-defined functions, how exactly we need to write the user-defined functions. First, you have to start by giving the return type, followed by the function name, and if you're passing any kind of arguments, that should be written within the parenthesis, and next should be the function body, and you need to close it. In this particular thing, we will discuss 5 types of functions, that is without return value, with return value, either by giving the or by passing the parameter or not by passing parameter. The last one is the recursive function. Now we'll look one by one. Here we'll see the first function, that is function without return value and with parameter. In this particular thing, it does not require or it does not return any value, but it requires the input values, or else it doesn't work. First, as usual, we have to pass the header file, that is standard input and output. Here we are declaring the function. Our function name is greet. Since it does not return any value, we are using void greet, but we have the parameter or the arguments that is passed is name, which is of data type character. Since constant char pointer name, after declaring, you need to call in order to this function has to work. So we are calling the function same void greet by passing the same parameter, and we need the output to be printed. So we are passing the printf statement hello, and the name has to be taken from the main function. So in the main function, we are assigning the name alias in the function name greet and giving return 0. So when it goes and check this alias is of the data type string. So in the printf statement, we are using %s. From there, it will fetch back in the main function, and hence our output will be hello Alice. That's all. Hence here, without returning any value by the given parameter, it is printing our output hello Alice. Now we will see the second function, that is function without return value and parameter. In this particular function, it does not return any value and does not require any kind of input arguments or input parameters. Now we will declare the header file, then we will see the function name should be given, that is function declaration. We have to declare the function name without any return value. So we are declaring void greet. And since no input values are required, we are directly passing the printf statement to print hello world. Since you've already passed, you need to call the function in the main function. So you're calling the greet and returning 0. So hence directly it takes the output hello world. This is a very simple and easy to understand. In this particular function, the function declaration is given by using the return type void because it does not return anything. Now we'll see the third function, that is function with return value and with parameter. It performs a specific task and it requires the input values, and based on that it returns the result to it. To look at this, we will take an example given. As usual, by passing the header file, we will declare our function. Our function name is add, that is addition of data type int. And here we are passing the parameters, that is input values are passed to the function within the parenthesis. Here a and b variable, which is of data type integer, and we are asking it to return the addition value, that is a plus b. In order to return, we need a printf statement. We'll go to the main function. Whatever the return result, it should be of integer data type. So int result. After declaring, you need to call the function. So whatever the result is equal to, since it requires an input value, we are giving the value result is equal to add 5, 3, and the printf statement is passed to add the sum. So sum and the result. So output will be 5 plus 3 is equal to 8, because variable a is equal to 5 and b is equal to 3. Since written a plus b, so it automatically adds 5 plus 3 is equal to 8. Thus the sum is equal to 8. Now we'll see the next function, that is function with return value and no parameters. In this, it performs a specific task and it does not require any kind of input values. It returns the value of a specified data type already given by calling the function call. Here we'll take an example. See, by giving the header file in standard input and output, we have to declare our function. Our function name is getNumber, which is of data type or a return type integer. After declaring, you need to call it. So we are calling it again int getNumber, and since we need to return it, we are telling to return the number 42. Here no need to take input from the user, so we are telling return 42. Since this number has to be printed, we need to go to the main function and write it. In the main function, we are telling whatever the number is of integer data type is equal to the getNumber, that is equal to the our function name. And since this has to be printed to the console, printf statement is passed, that is number. Hence the output or the getNumber is printed to the console, that is number is equal to 42. Thus this function works. We will see here the last one, recursive function. Meaning recursive function is any function that happens to call itself again and again unless the program satisfies at some specific condition. We will see this function with an example of a factorial of a number. How to find a factorial of a given number. In this particular example, we will take the input from the user itself. First, as usual, by giving the header file, we will declare our function. In this, our function name is factorial, which is of data type integer. Here we will pass our parameters of variable 1 parameter, variable n, which is of data type integer. After passing, we need to call the function to execute. So we are calling it, and by passing if-else statement or if-else condition, we'll just check whatever the n value given is equal to 0, it has to return 1, or else it has to return the factorial formula. That is n into factorial of n minus 1. So by checking all this, we need the input from the user. So we'll go to the main function. In main, whatever the number that to be taken from the user, that should be of data type integer. So you're giving it int number. Since you need to ask it from the user, you need a printf statement and a scanf statement. Then whatever the int result is there, that should be equal to the factorial of the number. So for that, output should be displayed. So you're passing one more printf statement to print the factorial of the given number. Since the user input is 5, when it goes to since n is not equal to 0, it moves from if statement to the else statement. Hence it returns the value, the factorial of 5 is 120. This is how recursive function works. Thank you.